What if the person you think you are doesn't exist? Not the name you answer to, not the job title on your business card, not even the collection of memories you call your life. Imagine for a moment that all of it is a mask, carefully built, polished, and worn so long that you forgot it was never really you. We grow up believing this self is solid, something we can point to and say, "This is who I am." But look closer. Strip away your roles, your habits, the opinions others project onto you. What's left? Can you actually find a stable you, or only fragments, shifting with every moment? Here's the unsettling truth. Much of what you call yourself is borrowed. Your thoughts shaped by culture, your values inherited, your identity stitched together from the expectations of others. It feels permanent, but it's fragile. Like a story that begins to crumble once you question it. And that's where the shock lies. If the self is not fixed, if the you defend so fiercely is an illusion, then who or what are you really? This is not a question you can ignore. Once it enters your mind, it lingers. It follows you. It gnaws at the edges of your certainty. And if you let it, it will tear open everything you thought was solid about existence. You think you know who you are. You've told yourself the story 1,000 times. I'm this kind of person with these beliefs, these habits, these dreams. But what if that story is nothing more than smoke? What if the self you cling to is an illusion? Think about it. The person you were 5 years ago, is that really you? The way you dressed, the things you believed, the dreams you swore you'd chase. They're gone now, replaced by something else. Yet you still call it the same self. Isn't that strange? The truth is unsettling. Identity is not solid. It's stitched together from fragments, your upbringing, your culture, the expectations of family, the approval of friends. You didn't build this self alone. It was handed to you, piece by piece, and you simply put on the costume. And yet, you defend it fiercely. You guard it as if it were eternal. But here's the fracture. If you strip away your labels, your roles, your opinions, what's left? Can you actually point to a permanent you? Or does it slip through your fingers like water? This is the illusion Nietzsche, Buddhism, and modern psychology all wrestle with. The self is not a fixed thing. It's a moving mask, changing from moment to moment. But because you believe the mask is real, you suffer. You cling to it. You fear losing it. This video is not about giving you new labels or replacing one story with another. It's about unraveling. It's about pulling the thread that makes the fabric of your identity come apart until you see what lies beneath. Once you begin this unraveling, you can't stop. The questions will follow you. They will challenge every certainty you've built. And if you're brave enough, they will set you free. Who are you? Most people answer with a name, a job, a role they play. I'm a student. I'm a parent. I'm successful. I've failed. But if you look closely, all of these are building blocks, fragile bricks stacked into a house you call me. Your memories form the foundation. You point back and say, "This happened to me, therefore this is who I am." But memories are slippery. Science shows they change, fade, even rewrite themselves over time. So how can a shifting memory be the bedrock of a solid self? Then come the roles. Child, friend, worker, leader. You step into them like costumes, wearing each depending on the stage you're standing on. Yet when one role is stripped away, when the job ends, when the relationship breaks, when the stage goes dark, you feel the ground tremble. Who are you without the costume? Next are the names, the labels. Introvert, extrovert, creative, logical. These words feel permanent, but they're just shortcuts. Boxes drawn to make the chaos of a human life seem neat. You begin to live inside those boxes, forgetting that you were always bigger than them. And then, perhaps most fragile of all, the walls built from achievement and failure. A trophy, a degree, a business card. You cling to them as proof of identity. Or the failures you replay, the mistakes you drag like chains, whispering, "This is who I am." But both success and failure pass. They don't last. And if they don't last, how can they define you? This house of identity feels strong, but look closer. It's made of glass. Every piece is temporary, borrowed, breakable. The moment life shakes it, an illness, a loss, a change you didn't see coming, the house cracks. And suddenly you're left asking, if these walls fall, what remains of me? Maybe that's the secret most people never face. The self is not a fortress. It's a fragile house. And sooner or later, it always begins to crumble. Think about how fragile these labels really are. You say, "I am my career." But what happens when the company closes or the title is taken away? In an instant, that identity dissolves. You say, "I am my relationships." But people leave, people change, people die. The role of partner, friend, parent, it can shift overnight. And when it does, the self you thought was permanent suddenly feels like a stranger. Even your body, the thing you trust most, can betray you. Illness, aging, injury, all can strip away the image you built around strength, beauty, or ability. It doesn't take years for identity to crumble. Sometimes it only takes one phone call, one accident, one unexpected ending. And when the label is gone, the question strikes like lightning. Was that ever really me? If your entire sense of self can vanish so quickly, then maybe none of it was the real you to begin with. Maybe what you've been calling I is only a mask, one that life can rip away at any moment. And if that's true, then what or who remains when the mask is gone? Every human being wears masks. Most of the time, we don't even realize it. There's the polite face, the one you put on when you smile at someone, even though inside you're tired, angry, or broken. There's the confident face, the one that pretends you've got everything under control, when in truth you're barely holding it together. And there's the agreeable face, the one that nods along just to avoid conflict, even when every part of you wants to scream no. We live so long behind these faces that we start mistaking them for who we are. The mask becomes comfortable, familiar, even necessary. You wear it to be accepted, to be loved, to survive. But the disturbing truth is this: when you've worn a mask for too long, you forget the face beneath it. You forget what your own voice really sounds like. So ask yourself, how much of your life is lived by the mask? And how much is lived by you? Nietzsche, Jung, and many other thinkers understood something we often forget. Masks are not always lies. They are survival tools. A mask can protect you. It lets you move through society, play roles, and shield the most fragile parts of yourself from being exposed. Sometimes, without the mask, life would be unbearable. But here's the danger. When you wear the mask long enough, you start to believe it is you. The role becomes your identity. The smile becomes your personality. The job title, the reputation, the image you project. They all harden into something you think is your essence. And that's when the mask stops protecting you and starts imprisoning you. Because if the mask is all you know, then who are you without it? That's the haunting question these thinkers left us with. Not whether masks are useful, they are, but whether, in clinging to them, we have lost sight of what lies beneath. Beneath every mask lies something far more unsettling: the shadow. The shadow is the part of you that doesn't fit the polished story you tell the world. It's the anger you swallow, the envy you bury, the fears you refuse to admit. It's the selfish thought, the hidden desire, the instinct you push into silence. Carl Jung called it the shadow self, not because it is evil, but because it lives in darkness. It's everything you deny, everything you repress, everything you pretend isn't there. But denying the shadow doesn't make it disappear. It leaks out in sudden bursts of rage, in the quiet bitterness you can't explain, in choices you later regret. The shocking truth is this: the more you push it away, the stronger it becomes. And so the question emerges: if your shadow holds the pieces of you that you won't face, are you really living as yourself, or only as the fraction of you that feels safe enough to be seen? Most of what you call yourself isn't conscious choice at all. It's automatic. It's habit. It's reflex. You think you decided to say that word, to make that move, to choose that path. But how much of it was actually you? And how much was the hidden machinery of your shadow? The shadow doesn't announce itself. It whispers in the background, guiding your reactions. It fuels the resentment you pretend not to feel, the sudden jealousy you can't explain, the silence you keep when you should speak. And here's the unsettling truth: the shadow is often faster than your conscious mind. By the time you realize what you're doing, the strings have already been pulled. So the question cuts deep. Are you really in control? Or is your shadow moving the strings? Because if you've never faced it, if you've never looked it in the eye, then maybe you're not the one driving your life at all. Maybe the hidden part of you is. What if the you you've been protecting all these years isn't real at all? At least, not in the way you think. Philosophy and psychology both whisper the same unsettling truth. The self is not fixed, but constructed. Think about it. From childhood, you collected pieces: your name, your culture, the praise you received, the mistakes that haunted you. Each one stacked on top of the other until it felt solid, permanent. But in reality, it's more like a story you keep telling yourself. And like any story, it can be rewritten. Identities shift with time, with loss, with new beginnings. What you believe is the true you is just one version, stitched together by memory and shaped by survival. So the question remains: if the self is an invention, then who or what is the author? And if the story can change, how much of what you call you is actually real? Who you think you are is not a solid object. It's not a fixed thing you can point to. It's a story stitched together from memory, culture, language, and even the opinions of others. Your memories shape the plot. But memory is fragile, rewritten every time you recall it. Your culture sets the stage, telling you what's acceptable, what's shameful, what's admirable. Language gives you the words to describe yourself. But words are cages as much as they are tools. And the people around you, their reflections, their judgments, their praise and rejection, all of it bleeds into the story you end up calling me. The shocking truth is this: the self isn't a thing, it's a narrative, a performance constantly revised, adjusted, and retold. You don't have an identity. You practice one, moment by moment, line by line. So ask yourself, if the self is just a story, then who is the one telling it? And more importantly, who are you without it? We like to believe we know who we are. We cling to labels. I'm this kind of person. I could never do that. I always do this. It feels safe. It gives us ground to stand on. But that certainty comes at a cost. The moment you lock yourself into a fixed identity, you build invisible walls around your life. You stop exploring. You stop risking. You stop becoming. Because if you are certain of who you are, then change becomes a kind of betrayal. But the truth is, certainty is a prison. It traps you in yesterday's story and blinds you to tomorrow's possibility. You defend your label instead of discovering your depth. And the irony? the self you are protecting isn't even real. Ask yourself, what might you see? What might you become if you dared to loosen your grip on the person you think you are? Why do we cling so tightly to who we think we are? Because the idea of letting go terrifies us. To step into the unknown feels like stepping off a cliff. So we repeat the same patterns, replay the same roles, tell the same stories, because at least they feel familiar. But that safety is an illusion. It's not freedom. It's a loop, a cage disguised as comfort. The fear of not knowing keeps us small, keeps us predictable, keeps us trapped in the same version of ourselves. What if true freedom doesn't come from declaring, "This is who I am"? What if it comes from admitting, "I don't fully know, but I'm willing to become"? You are not a finished product. You are a work in motion. And the moment you stop clinging to certainty, you create space for transformation. We spend our lives clinging to the idea of a solid self. One name, one identity, one unchanging me. But what happens when that illusion begins to crack? Think about it. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. Your thoughts shift, your desires evolve, your memories fade and rewrite themselves. Which version of you is the real one? The child, the teenager, the adult, or the one who hasn't even emerged yet? The truth is unsettling. There is no single, fixed self hiding underneath it all. What you call you is a moving target, a collage of changing states stitched together by memory and belief. The self isn't a stone. It's a river, always flowing, never still. And once you see that, the illusion of being one solid thing collapses. You're left with something both terrifying and liberating. You are not fixed. You are becoming. When the illusion of a fixed self collapses, it feels like the ground has been ripped out from under you. If you are not one solid, unchanging you, then what are you? This realization can feel frightening, even unbearable. We want to cling to certainty, to say, "This is who I am, this is where I belong, this is what I believe." Certainty is comforting. It feels like safety. But in truth, it's a prison. Because when you lock yourself into a rigid identity, you also lock the doors on your own becoming. You repeat the same roles, the same patterns, the same story, long after it has stopped being alive. But here's the deeper truth. Identity is not solid, it is fluid. It shifts with every choice, every experience, every confrontation with the unknown. You are not finished, you are unfinished, always in motion, always being rewritten. And that collapse of certainty, as terrifying as it feels, is also the moment of freedom. When the walls of your identity crack, you suddenly realize you are not bound to be who you were yesterday. You are not limited by the names, roles, and labels that once defined you. What looked like destruction is really an opening. The collapse of the false self tears down the cage you didn't even know you were living in. Beyond it, there is space, raw, uncertain, and alive, where something new can be born. So yes, identity is shifting. It is unfinished. And that is not a weakness. It is the greatest source of strength you have. The ability to become. When the false self collapses, what is left? If the stories, the roles, the names, even the memories you cling to are stripped away, what remains at the core? This is the question that unsettles us most. Because we spend our lives building the mask, protecting it, polishing it. And yet, when it falls, there is still something there. A space that cannot be owned, cannot be labeled, cannot be broken. It is not the voice in your head. It is not the collection of opinions you've borrowed from the world. It is the silent awareness behind it all. The stillness that watches as identities rise and dissolve. When the self collapses, you don't vanish. What disappears is the illusion of being a fixed thing. What remains is something deeper, a presence, a capacity to see, to feel, to become. That space beyond the self is where freedom begins. Because only there, when you are no longer clinging to who you think you are, do you discover the possibility of who you might yet become. The shocking truth of existence is not that you are nobody. It's that you are not locked into being just somebody. You are free to become. Think about how much energy is wasted every day defending an image. We argue to protect our reputation. We cling to past achievements. We fear losing the roles that make us feel important. But what if all of that is just a cage we've built around ourselves? A fragile wall keeping us small? When that wall cracks, something terrifying happens. You realize the self you were guarding was never solid. And yet, in that collapse, a door opens. Possibility rushes in. Without the burden of defending an illusion, you no longer have to live as a fixed identity. You don't have to be the successful one, the failure, the people pleaser, or the loner. You don't have to cling to labels at all. If you are not who you think you are, then who are you willing to become? If this question stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Carry it with you. Wrestle with it. Let it reshape the way you see yourself and the world around you. And if you want more journeys into these hidden corners of existence, into the questions that unsettle and transform, this is what we explore here. Subscribe to the Thought Foundry and walk with us into the unknown. Because the search doesn't end here, it only begins.